Ethan never imagined that one desperate whimper, so faint it could have been the wind, would rewrite his entire life. It wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic, just a fragile thread of sound trembling in the quiet night. Yet it pulled him off his usual path like an invisible hand. What he found in that shadowed corner defied reason. A creature so small, so impossibly fragile, that its very existence seemed like a mistake. But its eyes, wide, wet, and pleading, held a fire no size could contain. What would you do if fate placed the most fragile miracle in the world right in your hands? If stories like this move you, hit like. It helps more people find hope. Subscribe so you never miss a moment that changes everything. And tell us in the comments, what country are you watching from? We read every single one. The sun had just slipped below the skyline when Ethan turned onto Maple Street, shoulders heavy from another long shift at the warehouse. The city exhaled around him, car horns fading, shop signs dimming, the air softening into that quiet hour between day and night. He liked this time. No demands, no noise, just the rhythm of his own footsteps echoing on pavement. He'd grown used to solitude, even welcomed it. But tonight, the silence carried something else, a whisper of life where there should have been none. He didn't know it yet, but tonight, the universe had a different plan. At first, he thought it was a loose shutter or a stray cat. But then it came again, thin, trembling, unmistakably alive. He stopped, heart thudding for no reason he could name. Following the sound, he turned into the narrow alley behind the old bakery, past overflowing bins and cracked concrete. There, tucked between a soggy cardboard box and a rusted pipe, was the tiniest being he'd ever seen. Barely larger than his palm, its fur damp and tangled, its ribs rising and falling in frantic, shallow gasps. Its eyes locked onto his, not with fear, but with a silent, soul-deep plea. Ethan's breath caught. He'd seen stray dogs before, even helped a few, but this was different. This was a life hanging by a thread. Without thinking, he knelt and gently gathered the trembling body into his hands. "It's okay," he whispered, voice cracking. "You're safe now. I've got you." He tucked the puppy inside his jacket, pressing a hand over its tiny form as he hurried home. Every step felt urgent, as if time itself might run out before he reached his door. Inside, he flicked on the lamp and laid the creature on a folded towel. Its chest heaved, eyes fluttering weakly. "Hungry," he murmured, rushing to the kitchen. He warmed milk, filled an old eyedropper, and knelt beside the counter. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, a flicker of tongue, a desperate lap at the dropper. Relief flooded him. After feeding, he lined a shoebox with his softest flannel shirt, added a warm water bottle beneath, and nestled the puppy inside. It curled into a trembling ball, letting out a sigh that sounded like gratitude. Ethan sat on the floor beside it, wide awake, whispering promises into the dark. "I won't leave you. Not tonight. Not ever." By dawn, worry clawed at his chest. The puppy lay still, breathing so faintly he leaned close, terrified. He scooped it up, voice breaking. "Come on, little one. Stay with me." It whimpered, barely audible, but alive. Still, weaker than before. Ethan knew home care wasn't enough. He wrapped the pup in a cloth, tucked it against his heartbeat, and ran to the clinic. The bell jingled sharply as he burst inside, drawing stares from waiting pet owners. The receptionist gasped. Within moments, Dr. Rivera appeared, calm, experienced, until he saw what Ethan held. His professional composure shattered. "My goodness," he breathed, gently placing the puppy on the exam table. Gloved hands moved with extraordinary care, checking pulse, eyes, breath. Silence stretched, heavy and thick. Then, through the stethoscope, came the sound, a rapid, stubborn heartbeat. Dr. Rivera looked up, eyes glistening. This puppy shouldn't be alive. Not at this size, not after this long. But he's fighting like his life depends on it, because it does. He turned to Ethan, voice thick. "You've brought us a miracle. And miracles deserve every chance." The days that followed were a blur of exhaustion and devotion. Every 2 hours, day or night, Ethan warmed milk and coaxed drops into Hope's mouth. Yes, he'd named her that, because that's what she was. Some feedings went smoothly. Others left him shaking with fear when she turned her head away, too weak to eat. He bought a heating pad, adjusted blankets, slept on the couch beside her box. Whenever he stepped away, she'd whimper, a sound that pierced straight through him. He'd return, and her tiny paw would press against his finger, their silent language of trust. Nights were the hardest. In the stillness, every shallow breath felt like a countdown. Once, she went so still he thought he'd lost her, until a sudden gasp, a weak cry, brought him sobbing with relief. "Don't scare me like that," he'd whisper, holding her close. "Just keep fighting. I'm right here." Then, slowly, hope became real. Her eyes stayed open longer, bright and alert. Her legs, once limp, began to twitch with purpose. One morning, she pushed herself up and took a wobbly step. Ethan laughed through tears. "Look at you," he cheered. Days later, he felt a tug at his pant leg. He looked down to see Hope, having climbed from her box, standing proudly at his feet, tail giving a clumsy wag. She stared up with those same eyes that once begged for survival, now shining with trust, with love. His apartment, once silent and empty, hummed with life. Neighbors smiled when they saw him, asking about the tiny wonder in his arms. But Ethan knew the truth. She wasn't just healing. She was teaching him how to live again. Weeks later, he walked into Dr. Rivera's clinic with lighter steps. Hope peeked from his jacket, ears perked, tail wagging. The receptionist stood in awe. "Is that the same puppy?" she whispered. In the exam room, Dr. Rivera froze. Then, slowly he smiled. He lifted Hope gently, marveling at her stronger frame, her shiny fur, her steady gaze. She licked his glove, paw pressing his thumb, the same gesture that once broke him. Tears streamed down his face. "I told you not to expect much," he said, voice trembling. "But she didn't just survive. She chose to live with you." He handed her back. "You're the reason she's here. And she's the reason you'll never forget what love can do." That night, Ethan carried Hope onto his balcony. The city glittered below, indifferent to the quiet miracle in his arms. She rested her head against his chest, paw over his heart, her favorite place. He thought of that alley, the cold concrete, the sound that changed everything. "I thought I saved you," he whispered. "But you saved me too." She lifted her head, licked his chin, and sighed contentedly. He knew she'd always be small, always delicate. But her spirit? Unbreakable. As he turned back inside, he spoke softly, not just to her, but to anyone listening. If this tiny life, abandoned and forgotten, could fight through impossible odds, what excuse do we have to give up on ourselves? Hope isn't just her name. It's a lesson. And if her story touched your heart, maybe it's reminding you, never stop believing. Never stop fighting. Because sometimes, the smallest light can chase away the deepest dark.